Good morning, good morning. So today I am just popping on for a little bit because I have been getting some very interesting feedback from my clients. And as someone who has experienced this situation not once but twice, I figured that it was important for us to talk about it. So we have talked about narcissism before, we have talked about like dating a narcissist, that kind of thing. However, living with a narcissist. But we haven't really spoken about working with a narcissist. Now, working with a narcissist can be just as difficult, just as demeaning, just as toxic. And it's important for us to gather why that is so. And why does the environment you're working in play an important role in who you are and your mental health? This is especially important as we are in Suicide Prevention Awareness Month, with it being the date being tomorrow. So I'll pop on tomorrow to talk a little bit more about suicide prevention awareness. So stay tuned for that. So the issue, working with a narcissist. What is it like? Why is it so difficult? And why do you always feel so drained emotionally, psychologically, physically at the end of the day? So working with a narcissist is extremely difficult because it's a constant battle of your sense of self and them. Most of the times when you have a boss who's a narcissist, it's all about them. They're going to be the face of the company, they're going to be the face of the organization, and they may not do anything. You may have a huge role in the company, but it doesn't matter. If you are mentioned, your mention is an attempt to glorify them for picking you, right? So remember, the narcissist is no different in the workplace. So they are going to then, when they do glorify you, again, it's in their efforts. It's like, oh, look, I picked such a great staff. Or, oh, look, I picked such a great coordinator. Or, oh, look, I'm capable of finding, the newest psychologist who has come into the country, that kind of thing. Most qualified psychologist, whatever. Marketing, accountant. And they're going to use that to then kind of make themselves seem more qualified. So look at me, I'm good at choosing the best of the best. And they're going to then use that platform, use your skills, use what you're good at to then make them look good. And the times that you overshadow them, or you do a better job, or you pick up recognition from an external body, you're then chastised for that, and it could be both covert and overt narcissists. So they can both openly discredit you, or they can privately attempt to intimidate you, which has happened to me on more than one occasion. They may attempt to belittle you, but with other people. They may very covertly say, like, okay, they may try and like rope you in and say, like, oh, like, you're a representative of this organization. Uh, we don't want to be associated with other people. So then making you seem like you made a wrong decision by helping out another NGO, helping out another business, and that your allegiance lie with them. So in the beginning, they're not going to present themselves as the narcissist. They're going to present to be as like a casual, calm boss. And, oh, get your reports in when they're due. That's fine. That's expected. And then when you get in the reports and they're either not what they expect, or they challenge their intellect, it makes them feel small and vulnerable. And the narcissist is very much small and vulnerable as any other person. But because of this grandiose attempt to inflate themselves so that they don't ever feel small, because feeling small makes them vulnerable and they don't like that feeling, they're always going to inflate. And inflating is not Like people are like, okay, right, so what's wrong with inflating? The problem with inflating themselves is that while doing that, they're throwing people who have done the work under the bus. While doing that, they're minimizing the work that you've done. While they're doing that, they're not appreciating the work you've done. You are rarely going to get a thank you from a narcissist boss. You're rarely going to get recognition from a narcissist boss. You are rarely going to feel like you're actually doing something right with your narcissist boss, while all the time they're taking that recognition from your work. The other thing that a narcissist boss will do is along that line of gaslighting. They know that confusion and making a work environment unstable is going to keep the power with them. So you might have a job description, you do or don't. Sometimes with a narcissist boss, they kind of say, oh no, we don't need a contract. Like, we're good, we're binding, we're friends, it's all right. And you believe it because you're like, okay, this person's nice, right? Or this company has a good reputation, or whatever. And so then you don't get the contract and you don't demand it, or you do demand it and you don't get it. And so you have an idea of what your tasks are. And then if you miss and you don't do a task, it's a huge deal. You're totally belittled for that. If there's something that is, like I said, something that it doesn't fit in their forte, they will say that, oh, I know your job, I can do it. And so when you come with additional like work or additional sheets, they'll be like, oh, this is not how it's done. Mind you, you know it's done and you know it's right, and that's the proper approach. And they're going to attempt to make you feel like you don't know what you're doing. The narcissist's attempt to throw you off your game is an ongoing daily ritual. They like the confusion. They like knowing that they've belittled you. They like knowing that they've made you question yourself. And through doing that, they know that they keep the power. So the narcissist will say they know everything. And so this leaves you very confused. And the confusion then results in you questioning yourself, questioning your abilities, and then you eventually just give over power. Okay, if you say so. Another thing we see is that there will be persons with set duties in a workplace. So you might have like someone who works on projects, someone who works on marketing, someone who works on communication, someone who works on payroll. And the narcissist will insert themselves in every single position because they know best. And they know best means you can't do your job the way that I can do your job. And it almost leaves you feeling like, well, why did you hire me? Why did you hire me if you can do this job? And they will undermine you again. So in terms of things like a project, you'll say, okay, well, we have this to do and this to do. And they'll be like, oh, but don't forget this and that. And you're like, yeah, that's phase 2. That's coming. And they'll be like, no, but like I had to remind you. And it's like, no, you didn't have to remind me. I know it's in my phase 2. It's already in the plan. Another thing they might do is undermine the skills of someone in like accounting or payroll, and say like, okay, well, did you calculate that person's this and that? Did you calculate when they went out for lunch? All these very, very fine details to throw you off your game. And it's like, I've been doing accounting for like decades. I know what I'm doing. And you might even be using like software, but they're going to question you to make you wonder like, is the software right? Am I right? But I've been doing it this style. I'm doing it this style for my whole life, or like through my career. I know this is right. But then that confusion and that questioning and that self-doubt is aimed at you then being like, okay, if you say so. And then we say, okay, you say so for so long that you're not demanding or standing up for your right to do your job the right way. So that's the kind of things that happens very covertly, very innocently, and you're not sure what's really happening. You just start to feel very off tilt in your job, and you start coming home feeling like really drained, and you don't know why. They like to micromanage a lot, and it's very frustrating because like they will comment on everything down to like the lettering in a poster, the picture you've picked. You think it's appropriate, you think it's diverse, it's cultural, whatever it is, it's marketing, it's going to market something, and then they're going to find a way to make you feel bad for choosing that picking that poster or picture. And so there's several things that they're going to do. So what is going to happen usually is you're going to either make a decision somewhere down the line, depending on your personality, that you're going to either defend yourself or become submissive. That's really what the narcissist wants. They'll play along with your challenging game for a little bit, but narcissists do not like to be challenged. They do not like to be challenged, and they're going to try their best to defend the way that they know best. And if you make them feel small, they're going to hate that, and they're going to give you what I call the narcissist backlash. Narcissist backlash is attempting to completely unravel who you are, what you are. They're going to pick apart everything you've done. They're going to put doubt so deep in your mind. They're going to insult you so regularly that you just give up on whatever your tasks are and just conform to what they want. And you're going to become submissive. And that's when that psychological, physiological, emotional distress really comes down hard. They're going to attempt to come in. I remember one time, I've dealt with two narcissists in the past year, so it's very interesting. As bosses, when I was in internship, I believe I was exposed to a narcissist, and then in the past year, they will come in and say they need to make, oh, can we talk? And I've seen this, and it's scary. If you're not used to working with a narcissist, it's very scary. They come and they're like, can I talk to you? And I'd be like, okay. They come in your office and they sit down, and that emotion just drains from their face. No remorse, no emotion. The narcissist has no emotions, by the way. It's all mimicking. They don't really know what joy is because they're truly empty on the inside. They don't like to be vulnerable, so they don't know sadness, or they don't want to remember what sadness looks like. And so all the hee-hees and the ha-has and the giggles, all fake. And this happened to me, and I was like, whoa. And I was really taken back. And then I did what I do, which is I defend. And you don't want to get in a conversation too long with a narcissist. You don't want to get in an argument with a narcissist too long. So I said what I said. I got flustered. I could feel my chest going, and I just was like, you know what? I don't know what to tell you. That's kind of how I usually end a discussion with a narcissist, because they're going on and on and on about their perception. And I'm the dominant one, I'm the boss. I make the rules, right? And you're just like, after a while, I know what I'm doing and I know what's happening. And I'm like, I really don't know what to tell you. And I just smile at them sweetly. Okay, that's your perception. I'm sorry you have that perception, right? Because you have to kind of validate the narcissist, right? You gotta know how to play the game. And so that's what they're used to doing. The intimidation factor is always there, and they're just waiting for that chance to get you alone. So when I've worked with a narcissist, I tend to keep very strong boundaries. I don't respond to certain messages, calls, emails, that kind of stuff. Once I discovered I was working with a narcissist, I was like, yeah, all of this bending over backwards for my job, no, that ended. Because I knew that they would just keep eating away at your soul, really. And they would keep collecting information so they could use it against you. They're always looking to undermine you as well by they'll call and message and be like, is so-and-so there, is someone here? And you just spoke to them. They know you're here, but they're attempting to make you feel okay, you can attempt to lie, but I'm better than you, I'm smarter than you. I'm going to find out if you're lying and if you're there, or if you're doing your work, or if you're busy, or if this is actually working, or if your phone is really dead. So they're basically going to try and make sure that they if you lie to me, you're not smarter than me, I'm smarter than you, and I'm going to find out you're lying. So it's all about that control. I'm on top and you're down here. And so that happens. And then the other side, like I talked about the submissive, and then I talked about the defensive. So you're going to get to a place where you're going to just, the narcissist is not going to cave no matter what you tell them, no matter what logical sense you give them, no matter what like evidence you show to them. It doesn't matter. Their narcissism is a misdiagnosis. It's a disorder of the self. And that self needs to be protected by at all costs, which even means faulty reality. So the faulty reality is that they're the best at everything and that they know everything and that you're wrong and I am right and that's just what it'll always be. So you could literally show them like how you've broken down certain things and it doesn't matter. They're either going to not respond to you, not engage with you, or they're going to insult you. Really, that's what it comes down to. And this is now where I'm going to kind of start closing up by letting you know is when you work with a narcissist boss, these are some of the things that I recommend from my own experience and also what they say in psychology, which is A, always keep your boundaries up in the sense of know what you deserve, know what, figure out, make sure in paper, by a contract, that you know what's your job description. What are your job expectations? What needs to be in a report? How do they expect you to, are you expected to be there on weekends? Are you expected to be there for special events? Does your job description call for that? If your job description does not call for that, and they say that you have to attend certain events or do certain things, or your report should count certain things, you have to be able to find a way to be like, I'm sorry, I can't. That's not like, I did not expect that I'd be working weekends, or I don't expect to work in holidays, or whatever the case may be. It's not a contract. If it's in a contract, then you have to decide if that's the kind of job you want or not, right? That's why you read descriptions. That's why it's important to know what you're getting yourself into. And that's why I think that's how a lot of people get used and misused in Guyana, by not having contractual agreements to say, hey, like, I didn't know I had to be in here at 8 a.m. The normal job hours is 9 to 5. Hey, I didn't know that you're taking out, like, you're not taking out NIS or PYE or whatever it is that you're doing, right? So you're not surprised when you owe NIS a year's worth of, like, payment because your boss that you thought was paying your NIS is not paying your NIS, right? Again, everything needs to be in a contract. I don't think I'm ever going to ever do a job without a contract moving forward because of the amount of manipulation that can go on in the workplace by not having a contract. I did that when I was like an intern and learning to be a psychologist, but now that I'm a psychologist, no one can tell me differently other than like UN level, psychologist level kind of thing, right? So get your contracts, make sure everything's in writing. Don't, if your boss wants to WhatsApp you, that's tricky. Get everything in email. And I had to learn that in internship in the last couple months. I was like, everything in email because these people are out to get me. These people are out to challenge me. These people are out to make me look bad. A part of also being in the workplace, knowing your boundaries, getting everything in writing, understanding that if you start to notice these narcissist tendencies, you really, like I said, you have two choices: become submissive or start defending. And or in my cases, I was able to slightly remove myself in the situation. We're not always going to be able to remove ourselves in the situation. If you work 9 to 5, 5 days a week at a job or with an organization, is what it is. You're around them, you're with them. And then you still have to recognize that you are getting drained. You are losing parts of yourself. You're starting to question your identity. You're starting to question your capabilities. Those are signs that you're working with someone who's toxic. You're starting to doubt yourself. These are all things that suggest that something is wrong with your work environment and or with your relationship. It could be also, I'm transferring some of these things to relationships, but today we're focusing on narcissists in the workplace. And this could be a coworker, which is even more interesting. Like we think of narcissists as the big boss, but this could even be like a coworker who's trying to assert dominance over you and you're like, dude, we started at the same time. Or you started a month before me. Calm down. Right? And so again, boundaries, getting that contractual agreements, being able to recognize when things are going off tilt and you are starting to get confused and you are starting to be belittled and you need to know why. You need to figure it out. If it is that you do figure out that you are being manipulated, you are being gaslit, you are being belittled, and something feels wrong, then you need to start making a plan to exit. I'm sorry. Being with a narcissist, whether you live with them, date them, work with them, they're your boss, you need to have an exit strategy at all times. Because when you decide to leave, because you will need to leave, because staying around a narcissist is very unhealthy. And I'm sorry for those people who have asked me, Riza, will a narcissist ever change? You can ask other psychologists. It's very hard for a narcissist to change. They've been built in this way for generations, not even, but decades. Because they may have even have picked up their narcissistic behaviors from their parents. And now they're a narcissist, and then they're going to change their children as well to narcissists. So even if you're hoping like, okay, I'm married to a narcissist, I've learned my boundaries, I've learned how to stand up for myself, I know when to stop having the arguments, I know how to shut them down, I know how to protect my ego, your children are still going to be affected. Think about that. Everything, feelings and emotions you're feeling, your 10, 12, 20-year-old child is going to feel it as well. And they feel there's a different kind of lessons, and you can find these online, lessons you learn by being the daughter or the son of a narcissist. I dated 2 males who were sons of narcissists. Good guys, but some deep-rooted issues, really deep-rooted issues. Their sense of identity and their sense of like self-confidence all revolved around like this concept that they're going to one day eventually do something great enough to be accepted and loved and validated by the narcissistic father. And I even saw that with my ex. He like purposefully, knowingly cheated on me with another person because their father literally tapped them on the shoulder like, good job, son. I'm glad that you're having 2 relationships at the same time. So yeah, very toxic. So be mindful. When you spend time with a narcissist, they will drain you. If you're married to one, if you live with one, if you're their roommate, if they're the sibling, the parent, you're going to feel this way because this is what they're intending to make you feel this way. Last thing, exit plans. Now, fair warning, when you decide to leave the narcissist or leave the narcissistic work environment, you will be punished. You will be punished. And it's going to come in different forms. It's going to come in the form that you won't get paid. Your check will be late. They will try some new like style of calculating your hours. They might even bad talk you. They're going to slander your name. It's called the smear campaign of a narcissist. When you leave a narcissist, even your partners, they will do the same thing. And I've seen this with my own experience in dating people who dated narcissists. And they smear campaigned my partner after they left them and, probably ended up dating me or whatever, or dating other people. And they do it as well. So it doesn't matter whether you are around a narcissist as an intimate relationship or a work environment, they are definitely going to smear campaign you. Oh, you were fired. Mind you, you done put in your resignation, or you have evidence that you put in resignation, or that there were issues leading up to the resignation, but no, they fired you. And I've seen this countless times with like certain narcissists. Everyone was fired. Everyone was fired. There's a lot of people who have left that one place, Like when I hear that there's a large turnover at like a store, a shop, a restaurant, when I see that turnover happening, there's something wrong with management. Definitely. There's probably a dominating personality that is throwing off the good intentions of these staff. And I see this especially in NGOs. Lots of great people working in NGOs, volunteering their time, all that jazz. And then you're seeing constant turnovers. Like, why does everyone leave this job? Maybe we should be looking at the boss, looking at the management, going and speaking to people and finding out, why y'all all leaving this job? Why are you guys all leaving this place? You want to hear my story? So yeah. And some people are bound to confidentiality. And like, for example, my last job, I made all the staff sign confidentiality forms, which means they can't talk about who they saw walking through the office. They can't talk about who they saw coming to me. They can't talk about which phone calls they got from my clients or future clients saying, hey, I need to come see Riza, I'm falling apart. So these were things that I put into practice to protect myself, my staff, my clients, because that's the most important set of people to me, my team and my people, my clients. And so I made sure that I do these things. And you can do the same thing too. If you're your own boss, if you're the boss who's recognizing, oh, I might have some narcissistic tendencies, I gotta watch that. Hey, why don't you start having a conversation with your staff and asking them, am I a bad boss? Have I done things that you guys don't approve of? I'm sorry if I belittle you. I'm sorry if I do this, da da da. You know, call me out if I'm being wrong. Not all narcissist bosses will say that, but if it is that you're recognizing stuff and you want to build awareness and self-growth, then by all means, ask your staff. Don't even ask them one-on-one. You might not be comfortable. Do put around a survey and don't let them sign their names. Say, what are some of the stressful things at work? What are some of the weaknesses in the workplace? What are some of the positives? What do we need to work on? Is there an issue with management? Do we need to change like our sign-in policies? Do we need to have a discussion on like if we need to do shift rotation for weekend jobs? These are the conversations that real bosses need to have with their staff. Like proper meetings, not like just one person talking over an entire team. Then why do we call this meeting? Right? So by all means, this is just my understanding and this is my experience and also my theoretical orientation, like understanding theoretically what happens in the workplace as a narcissist. So anyway, I hope this was helpful. Give me a thumbs up, give me a like, give me a share if you guys enjoyed that. And do know that you can have the best intentions. You can have the best intentions with a job, but if you have a crappy boss or a crappy team, it's really going to drain you. And you might have the best intentions with your job, but know that being around a narcissistic boss or a narcissistic team is going to drain you, and you're going to be left feeling very unlike you. And it might take some time. And I recommend that if you don't need this job, then go find someone who can help you build out your resume so that you can find another job ASAP, because it's not going to be healthy for you to be in that environment, and definitely not great. So do enjoy the rest of your day. Happy Monday. Mondays don't always have to be sucky. I'll see you guys later on, probably tomorrow. And yeah, let's have a great week, guys. Remember, when you start to feel those feelings of that doubt, am I going crazy? What is happening? Check who's around you. Check your job. Check people who you keep in your life, your partners, your family. It's happening, and we don't realize it. Have a great day. Thank you so many y'all for tuning in. I definitely do lives in the morning. You guys are so good. But thank you all for tuning in, and rewatch if you have the time. Thanks, and don't forget to share. I'm seeing comments coming in, but I'm not going to read them because then the live is going to take really longer. But thank you for those who are making these great comments that I'm already seeing. Thanks.